بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So
As
here,
you can see here, or if you're listening, we brought in a stray cat here. Brought our brother Yusuf back on to speak on the podcast just because, we love having this brother on, as well as all the brothers that we've had on the podcast. And we're talking about a good topic today. We're talking about, being resilient as Muslims in our current world, having a strong Muslim identity wherever you go. And this is actually a good topic that we're bringing here today because, there's something I've been seeing recently among some Muslims who specifically post on social media, and they say, I don't post Islamic content anymore because I don't want to be known for that. And me,
Wow.
I understand, if you don't want to post reminders and stuff like that, but it's like if you're going away from your identity as a Muslim, then you're taking those people away too, who can be discovering Islam through you, through the platform that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. And although some of us may not have platforms, we all have a voice. And we can attest to this just by seeing, the impact that Islam has had in our lives and the lives that we can, share that with other people who may find interest in Islam in your everyday life. They say, hey, why do you pray? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? And you tell them, you give them da'wah, and then they may end up researching Islam on their own.
yeah, we all hop on trends, no matter who we are, no matter how big of a platform that we have, and we all have some sort of level of influence, right? Whether that be with our own family members or our own, friend group. And I was actually earlier today, I was listening to a lecture about it was talking about trends, how some of us like we'll hop on these silly trends, right, that do nothing for us. And right now it might seem like it's just a little laugh, right? But that's the whole idea behind it. Right now it just seems like a little laugh, but then the next trend is just going to be something more filthier and dirtier, and this is going to take you away from your religion all the way up until the point where it takes away your faith, right? Because the danger of it is the fact that you're following something where you have no idea where it came from. That's the danger behind it. And it was talking about how the Prophet ﷺ, he brought the hadith of whoever influences someone to do good will have a reward like it. And it's the same exact thing for a bad deed as well, all the way up until Qiyam. So you got to think about it. If you're out here setting trends, leading a good example, you're gonna be rewarded for all of that. But if you're out here doing the opposite, setting bad trends, you're gonna be punished for it.
And then you imagine you're a person who you only follow trends. You're not like your own self. So much so that anything you do is just a trend. Your language, the way you speak, a trend. The way you can find another copy of you somewhere out there because they watch the same videos as you. Because that's all you do is you consume and you imitate that what you consume.
Let's be honest with ourselves. Why do we hop on trends? For relevancy. The only reason why you're hopping on a trend is for relevancy. Whether you're just trying to get a follow, a laugh, a share, attention from whoever it is may be, you're only hopping on the trend to stay relevant. And with the way society is going right now, to stay relevant, it's kind of hard now, without you compromising your faith. Because a lot of the trends that we have today, are telling us to do dirty things, to say dirty words, and things that are not permissible, right? But people are willing to do what? They're willing to sacrifice their religion for that. People are willing to denounce their religion. Oh, it's just a laugh. Oh man, let us live a little bit. Let us laugh a little bit. But we have to understand, we as Muslims, you start with displeasing Allah, it will only end in displeasing yourself. Because whenever you displease Allah, you're only harming yourself in the end.
There's a saying that says, every beginning that displeases Allah, the ending will displease you.
Exactly.
You're going to be depressed by the ending. I like what Hussein mentioned in the beginning, where he said that so many youth, they're ashamed of their Muslim identity. The Muslim youth, they're ashamed of projecting that, okay, I'm Muslim. They're shadowing away from that identity. They just want to put their Muslim identity in the shadows, and they want to relate. They want to rub elbows. They want to fit in with everybody. But subhanAllah, we didn't see that's not how the Sahaba were. The Sahaba, they stood on business, as you could say.
Yep.
They stood on business. They were not scared. SubhanAllah, so many of our youth, they're scared to even, subhanAllah, say their name now. Abdullah became AB.
Muhammad became Mo.
Muhammad became Mo. Like you have the name of the Prophet. You're gonna say Mo just because you don't want the other guy to say, oh, why you have that type of name. SubhanAllah. And like Hussein said, there's some people that you're holding this beautiful religion, this cure, this ma'rifah, this knowing of Allah, you're holding this away from some people. There's an analogy that, I want you guys to answer here. Who is at fault? Who is like the villain in this story? A doctor or a random, if someone is sick and he needs treatment, who is going to be at fault more? A random person layman who doesn't know anything about medicine, or a doctor that doesn't help him?
I love this
The
example.
doctor, right?
Mhm.
Because, and that's the same thing. You have people who are lost, who need Allah, who need this religion. The other people who don't have this religion, they're not responsible. We're responsible because we have this cure. We have this beautiful religion. We can heal their hearts. We can get them to know who Allah is after Allah's guidance, obviously. But we're holding this away from them. Why? Because we're scared of this identity, to be called a Muslim, to wear that thobe in public, to say our names, to just post a reminder because, oh, this guy, he's a Muslim. He's strict. SubhanAllah.
Though, bro, it's like what Yusuf just said. He spat because he reminded me of my younger self. When I was growing up obviously in America, I wore the title of Muslim. Some people know I'm Muslim, some people didn't. And when they ask questions, I was like very vague. A Christian would ask me, I'd be like, "Oh, I believe in the same God as you. I just don't believe Jesus is the Son of God." But when I came to learn, more about Islam, I was like, "Bro, no, my God is not the same as yours because you associate partners with God. I can't associate with you in any way, shape, or form. Allah told me to disassociate from anybody who doesn't believe in Him and believe in the last day and believe in the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. So I can't do that. But I used to because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be seen as like, oh, he just wears a different title. He's basically Christian. He just, he says Muslim. Maybe Muslim means Christian in Arabic or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what they probably thought. And then they just be like, oh, he just doesn't eat pork. Maybe I used to say I'm allergic.
Man, exactly. I used to do the same exact thing. But like wallah, when I switched the mentality of, man, I can't be scared to practice my religion. I've only seen benefit from it. Like, who cares if someone is going to make fun of you? You're rewarded for that.
Mhm.
You're going to sit there and defend your religion. You're rewarded for that. You sit there and you give dawah to someone because they're asking you questions because you wanted to practice your religion. You're rewarded for that. And I'll give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, me and my revert friend, we were at a dinner table with around 16, 17 people. And we were like, all right, we have to go pray. We'll be right back. I come back and the guy next to us, he said, why did you guys just go pray? And we're like, oh, because we're Muslim. We pray 5 times a day. He's like, 5 times a day? 5 times a day you pray? And I'm like, yeah. And then he was like, man, that's actually crazy. He said, like, why do you do that? And I'm like, because we're instructed to do that. I said, we pray for our benefit. We don't pray because God needs it. And then he just starts asking question after question after question. He said, look, you can't convert me now, but this makes a lot of sense. He said, man, like, I don't know. I talk to Christians and like, it's just not the same. Like, everything that you just said right now makes sense. But I got into the topic of why music is hot on with him, and he was just like, man, that's crazy. I can't imagine myself not listening to music, but what you said makes sense. Like, isn't that crazy? And like, bro, like he hasn't heard anything about Islam. He doesn't know anything about Islam. He said, you guys worship Allah, right? And I'm like, yeah. I said, do you know what that means? He said, I'm guessing that means God or something. I'm like, yeah, exactly. The same God that everyone else worships.
Bro, and that's a testament to our faults as well as Muslims, because we go around thinking that whatever we see on the internet, these stereotypes of Muslims of being an evil religion and people knowing that we pray 5 times a day, this and that, that we think that everybody should know that, but maybe they just don't believe, maybe they haven't looked into it too much. So that's a fault of us because we're always assuming that people already know. When in reality, if they're not Muslim, we should assume they don't know. They don't know anything, because if they really did know, the guidance would have come to them. And if they turned away, then we know that they're an evil person, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rejected them as a believer. But if they don't know and we assume that, then we can only do good from that.
And I always tell people, I said, look, if you're sincere and you're a genuine person, anytime like we try to give dawah to a non-Muslim, if you are sincere and you're genuine and you really want the guidance of God, there is no way that you'll die a non-Muslim. And I promise you that, because the guidance of Allah is true. If someone seeks the guidance of Allah, Allah will guide them. But if you don't, if you're rebellious, Allah will turn you away, and Allah will, will allow you to go in your misguidance.
Yeah, and like look at his example. Like this guy genuinely didn't know. He genuinely wanted to find out. Like I said, we just go with the mindset that, oh, this guy already knows like about Islam, but he just thinks it's a bad thing. You don't know that. Maybe some guy actually wants to learn about Islam, or maybe he has a wrong idea of Islam because of what's posted on social media and the news and what's broadcasted. But you, through your character, through your words, through your actions, you can show them what a Muslim really is. SubhanAllah. That the best da'wah, the biggest da'wah, the most strong way of showing someone what a Muslim is through your actions, through your character. When someone says a Muslim, that Muslim held the door for me, that Muslim paid for my meal, that Muslim did this for me, he helped me out when I was in need, that really shows. And that's what the Prophet was. That he had tyrants at his feet. Why? Because of his character. They saw how he was, subhanAllah.
They even expressed, even though they hated him, they even expressed that they knew he was a truthful man. They knew that he was honor and virtuous.
Exactly.
Look, speaking like back to that story again, like I was talking to him about like after like speaking with him about everything on like why certain things are haram, etc. So he was like, yeah, I said, if you don't mind me asking, if I said that we pray 5 times a day, is that crazy to you? He said, it's not the fact that it's crazy, but it just seems like, you know, you wouldn't be like, it's unbearable. And I said, can I tell you something? He said, what? I said, that's the bare minimum. I said, me praying 5 times a day, that's the bare minimum. And he said, man, that's actually crazy. And then that's when after that, he was like, yeah, you can't convert me right now. And I said, look, I'm not trying to convert you. I said, let me tell you something. I can't convert you. He can't convert you. Nobody in this room can convert you. Guidance only comes from God. Our job here is to only give you the message. And if that resonates with you, then it does. If it doesn't, then that's on you.
And you know, a common misconception I always see is that when we represent Islam, there's always a negative connotation to it. Don't do this. If you do this, you're bad. If you do this, you're going to hell. Don't do that. Don't do this. This is the sin, haram, haram. We never talk about the things like happiness that is associated with Islam, joy that is associated with Islam, love that is associated with Islam. We never speak about how Islam encourages us to give in charity, to be kind to our neighbor, to give salam to one another. The Prophet ﷺ said that whenever one of you comes to inform me of someone else, don't come with anything negative, because he likes to come out into the community with a clean heart. We never represent this type of Islam. It's not always about what you don't do. It is also about what you do.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And subhanAllah, you know, you remind me of something. One time my teacher, he told me, he said, because I knew a person that wanted to revert to Islam. And this is what he told me. He said, Yusuf, don't say anything to him about halal haram. Don't mention that. Don't mention halal. This is halal, this is haram. The only thing that is important for a person that wants to become a Muslim or is interested, the only thing is important is tawheed, knowing Allah.
Mm-hmm.
First, get him to know Allah. First, get him to love Allah. First, get him to accept that Allah is the only God that's worthy of being worshipped. And once you do that, then the other stuff can come. Then putting acts of obedience and staying away from desires and whims, then that can come into place.
And that's how the Quran was revealed. You know, it wasn't revealed with, you know,
in one day.
Exactly. It was revealed over 23 years, which just shows that, you know, we are not people who change overnight.
And subhanAllah, the Quran was first revealed where? In Mecca.
Mm-hmm.
Many masahif have a Quran. The Quran, it says if this surah was revealed in Mecca or Medina.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the surahs that were revealed in Mecca, all of them are the surahs that talk about tawheed, talk about the oneness of Allah.
And rules and regulations.
No
right?
rules and regulation. All the rules and regulation came after where?
Medina.
In Medina. When after they've already been Muslim for a long time, and the Prophet has already placed that love of Allah in their hearts, then the rules came down. SubhanAllah. So this is the wisdom, the hikmah of Allah Azza wa Jal.
And if you're still not convinced, think about another example. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not like go near prayer while you are drunk. It doesn't immediately forbid drunkenness. That came later. Because the people of Arabia at that time, they were alcoholics. They love to drink. And so you see how it was slow and gradual.
Yeah, the thing is, one, it's a process. Two, like we don't change overnight. And the fact that these people, before they were told to follow all these rules and regulations, they built a ground, right? They built a basis, right? Because without that basis, what's the point of following all the rules and regulations? I want you to think of a worldly example. Let's say a random woman came to you on the street talking about go do your laundry. You're going to be like, bro, who are you to tell me to go do my laundry? But if your mom came to you talking about go do your laundry, you better go ahead and listen to her, because she has every right to tell you to do that, because she's your mother and you recognize who your mother is. And it's the same thing with Allah. When you recognize who Allah is, you're going to want to follow Allah. You're going to give Allah the right. Allah has the right over you. And when you recognize and understand that, that's when you're going to go ahead and follow him. But if you don't know who Allah is, you're not going to be like, bro, like, why should I even follow this?
I love that you say that, and that we're talking about guidance coming over a period of time. Because when you think of the word guidance, and in Surah Al-Fatiha, as we mentioned in the last episode, you know, guide us upon the straight path. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that you're automatically at the end of the line. You're walking a path your entire life. The path leads is like it's endless until the day of judgment. There's no end to how much good you can do. There's no end to how close you can get to Allah. There's no end. Because, you know, the highest of statuses is that of the Prophet Muhammad, ﷺ, right? So to reach that status, you're never going to reach that status. But if you constantly chase it, you're going to keep getting closer to that, right? Because that's Allah. Allah sees your efforts. Your efforts matter so much. And like he said, your actions are part of your efforts. And Allah sees those efforts and he rewards those efforts. And as you get those rewards, you constantly like better yourself and better yourself. But that also brings about a level of humility and humbleness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you realize it doesn't come from you. That guidance came from Allah. I constantly asked for that guidance and now I see it. But that also comes with reflection. When you reflect and be like, dang, bro, I'm doing way better than I was a month ago, than I was a year ago, than I was 5 years ago, because I was a layman. But now I have so much knowledge, and that came from Allah, not from me.
You know what's
Man,
great?
look at the Prophet. The Prophet, what was the most repeated dua he had? Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Right? The hearts of people are between the as they say, the fingers of Allah in a matter that befits him. He can switch them as he wants. One day you can be Muslim practicing, the next day you won't be Muslim. You know, and vice versa. As Allah says in Surah Al-Qasas, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. O Prophet, you do not guide whom you love. The Prophet couldn't even guide his own grandfather.
Nope.
Right? وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah guides whom he wills. Guidance can come to anyone in any corner. But subhanAllah.
Imagine like adopting this mindset of, constantly chasing that worship, trying to, attain a level in which God is pleased with you. Think about this. You wake up, you recognize I'm a slave of Allah, I'm a slave of God. I'm gonna work today, I'm not gonna complain. I'm gonna do what a slave does, because I'm a slave to Allah in a humble manner. I don't care. You might think, oh, that's kind of offensive. You're a slave, arrogant. Shut up, potato. I don't want to hear that. You get up and you work constantly every day, and then you meet Allah on the day of judgment. Imagine Allah being pleased with you. Udkhulul Jannah, enter paradise.
This thing of constantly chasing to always do better will only, one, benefit you, and two, like we find this example in everything in this worldly life. You're playing a basketball game. It doesn't matter if they score 15, 20, 30 points. They're going to chase that 40, 50, 60, 70, as much points as they can get in that time that they have. Same thing with the soccer game. Doesn't matter if they're winning 5-0, they're going to want to go 10-0, 12-0, 15-0, if they can do that. And it's the same thing. We as Muslims should be constantly chasing that next good deed. Scoring as many good deeds as we can, because, it'll never be enough.
SubhanAllah, some people, they even have this idea in their mind that they can't even they think, oh, it's too much for me to go up and wake up in the night and pray to Allah. It's too much for me. I can't even do that. I'm just a little tiny, I'm a little Muslim. Like, for me, I don't care. My goal, sometimes I'll go to sleep at night and thinking, okay, I'm gonna wake up at this time and I'm gonna pray the entire night. And sometimes I don't even wake up. But at least I had the goal, though. At least I had that intention, though. But some people, they don't even think that they can do it.
But here's the thing, though. You can never just sit here and say like, oh, it's too much for me, because if you really wanted to do something, you'll go ahead and find a way to make it happen. You gotta know, because it doesn't matter if someone offered you, hey, I'm gonna give you $5 million. You wake up at 3 a.m. You just have to go ahead and give me a phone call. All right, you're gonna make sure you set 10 alarms for that, and let alone waking up for Fajr. Let alone waking up for Fajr and praying those 2 Sunnah prayers before. That's worth more than the world and everything that it contains.
Yeah. So one, like, this mindset I like to adopt whenever I'm trying to do more good deeds, or I'm trying to put the intention to do better, is fear of missing out. We all have a fear of missing out. I like to think that everybody's doing this thing and I'm the only one missing out. I'm the only one not being heard by Allah in the last third of the night. So I need to wake up so I can make dua to Allah, so he's going to hear me. I need to go out. I need to pray Salat al-Duha. I need to go pray those 2 sunnahs before Fajr, because everybody's already doing it. I'm the only one. And I might be asked on the day of judgment, everybody did this. Why didn't you do it, huh? Why did you omit this sunnah? Why did you omit this good deed, even though everybody was doing it? If it was so hard for you, how come it wasn't hard for all these people?
Speaking of this fear of missing out, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, what we began this podcast episode talking about, trends, right? People hop on trends for relevancy, right? And they fear of not being relevant. So why are we not setting more good trends? Why are we just hopping on trends that, that take us away from our religion, that take us away from our deen? It's crazy. Like, subhanAllah, you have so many opportunities to set a good trend, to set a good example, but yet we don't. We sit here and we hop on trends of the kafirin.
What's interesting is that those trends, they come and go, but the deen of Islam is here.
Man, matter of fact, look, give me an example of a good trend or a bad trend. Doesn't matter. Like, for example, the one we just did, give me my money. It's funny now. 6 months from now, it ain't gonna be funny anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but that's just the reality. But if we're sitting here setting good trends, oh, I'm gonna go out today and I'm gonna feed 5 people. All right. 10 years from now, it's still gonna be a good trend. 15 years from now, it's still gonna be a good trend.
I've actually thought of this, right? Yeah. So it's like let's say we had a community of Muslims looking to better themselves, right? And we're in there, we're like, all right, bet 30-day challenge. wake up every single night for tahajjud this month. That's a good trend, right? You start that trend. Now people, it takes what, like 21 days to start building a habit. Okay, now you've done it for 30 days. Same with Ramadan. Ramadan is the best trend that there is in the entire year. You spend 30 days trying to get closer to Allah, and you spend those last 10 nights doing as much as you can to get closer to Allah. And then after Ramadan, if you were really sincere during Ramadan, you're gonna come out even better, and you're gonna still have some of those deeds that you picked up during Ramadan. Maybe not to the same extent because it's a lot easier during Ramadan, but you'll still have some of them, and that constantly elevates you throughout the year.
I mean, that's what Ramadan's a teacher.
And we're talking
Ramadan's
about
a school. It just teaches you that, yes, you can wake up and pray at night.
Mhm.
You can fast.
Yep.
You can stay away from the
It's
haram.
possible.
It's possible. You can do it. Like when you guys said that some people say, I can't. No, you can, because obviously you do it in this month, you know? Another thing, like with worshiping Allah, it's not only just like the fear of missing out or like wanting to get the reward for it. I think the most important thing that I've come to realize in these past few days, and I remember like a couple of weeks ago I was talking to Asma about this, is just becoming beloved by Allah, loving Allah and becoming beloved by Allah, becoming from the awliya of Allah. I think that's like the biggest goal. That you know, there's a saying that says, "Inna fi dunya jannah, man lam yadkhulha lam yadkhul jannat al-akhirah." That on this earth there's a Jannah, there's a paradise on this. Whoever does not enter it cannot enter the Jannah of the Akhirah. What is that paradise? It's knowing Allah, ma'rifatullah, because that's the biggest thing. To love Allah, to be loved by Allah. And once you do that, Allah will put a sakina, a level of khushu' and sakina. Sakina means tranquility in your heart that no one else can have. And you know, subhanAllah, back in the day, there's some of the tabi'een, they were, or some of the salaf, I can't recall exactly, they were at a river, you know, a river, I think just fishing or something. And then they said that they pointed at, like above the mountain, that the people that lived in the palaces, the non-Muslims, they said the kings of these palaces, if they knew the tranquility, the sakina that we have in our hearts, they would fight us for this tranquility, even with swords. Subhanallah. That tranquility, nothing can buy that tranquility. That love of Allah, subhanallah. So we ask Allah to give us that.
I mean, going back to this trend setting, right? What were we just talking about, right? The fact that we hop on these trends, we don't even know who started these trends, right? But imagine you did it with a good thing, and going back to what the Prophet ﷺ said about whoever like encourages a good deed will have a reward like it. Imagine you set such a nice trend that is so beloved to Allah, and you share in every single reward in that, and people don't even know your face. It reminds me of, you know, there's some people on earth, they're not known to anybody, but they're well known in the heavens. Like imagine you get to that level.
I love
with a trend.
I love that saying, and that's what we were talking about. That
Subhanallah.
وَكَمْ مِن مَجْهُولٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَعْرُوفٍ فِي السَّمَاءِ. How many people are unknown on this earth? They're known in the skies. You know, there's a hadith. I love this hadith. The hadith, it says that, I don't remember exactly in Arabic, but in English, basically, وَكَمَا قَالَ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, there are people on this earth, you guys, like you may think that they're just like a random person. He has a shirt, like his whatever, his clothing, it's ripped and it's dirty, and his sandals are like dirty and cheap, and he's dirty himself, like he hasn't taken a shower. But this person, like everyone doesn't want to hang out with him, like, oh yeah, go away from me, you know, like you're dirty. But this person, if he was to make an oath by Allah that Allah, you have to do this, Allah will accept his dua.
Mhm.
He can make an oath by Allah, and Allah will accept that dua. Subhanallah. And there's a story that my teacher told me. I don't know. Do you have time for it?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. I'll try to make it short. And my teacher told us the story. I never forget it. My Quran teacher, his name is Sheikh Ahmed. He said to me that he told us a story. You know, sometimes we'd be like, Sheikh, we read Quran for all day. We're like, yeah, Sheikh, tell us a story. You know, let's relax. And Sheikh told us a story. He said that in the time of Medina, and I don't remember who the person, it was one of the tabi'een. So this guy is like tabi'i, he's known. And it was he was, you know, famous guy, a great worship of Allah. If I remember, I think it was Imam Malik, if I remember correctly. And what happened was, one time in this Medina, they didn't have rain for they had a drought. They didn't have rain for so long.
Oh, I remember the story.
Yeah, and subhanAllah, so they told him, like, Imam, like, make dua to Allah so we can get rain. So, you know, the sheikh, he was like, of this community, he was like, okay. So what he did was, he set out on a night, and he entered the masjid, and he had like a black garment, like a black shal on top of him. And he sat at the back of the pillar of the masjid, and he entered the masjid, he prayed 2 rak'ahs, and he just sat in the back of the masjid. He just made istighfar. As Allah says, Surah Nuh, فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا. The istighfar, one of the reasons for this, for rain. So he just sat there, he made istighfar. He said a man came after him. So the man couldn't see him because back then they didn't have lights. So he's sitting in the back of the masjid. It's 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, and it's dark. And this man walks into the masjid, and this man goes to the front of the masjid, like where the imam prays. He prays 2 rak'ahs, and then he gets up and he says, Ya Allah, Wallah. Yani he swears by Allah. He's talking to Allah. He swears by Allah that Allah, you are going to send down rain now. And the imam in the story narrates that as soon as he finished that sentence, thunder hit the sky, and rain started coming down. So the imam, he said, I didn't want that guy to see who I am because maybe this is a secret between him and Allah, So he said, when the guy got up, I tried to follow him home, and then I found out where he lives. And basically, the end of the story was that he tried to find out who that guy was. And in the hadith, the part that I missed was the reason that this person, he can make an oath by Allah and Allah will accept it, is because then my teacher asked us, tell me, why does this person have this? What does this person have? Why is he special? He's not a prophet. Why can he make a dua and Allah will accept it? It's because a secret he has between him and Allah. That relationship between he has in Allah that no one knows about. He became one of the awliya of Allah. One of the close relatives to Allah Azza wa Jal. So basically, the end of the story, the Imam set out to find that man. And do you know what that man was? He's a person who fixes shoes. He doesn't sell shoes. He fixes shoes that are ripped. He fixes. That was his job. Known by no one. SubhanAllah. But in the skies, he is known. So that story is like so beautiful. SubhanAllah.
I know what I'm doing now.
No, that's wild, bro.
But imagine you have that, bro. That's
Right.
crazy. SubhanAllah. I think that's the biggest goal that someone should try to achieve. SubhanAllah.
It's that individuality, that relationship between you and Allah that no
What,
one knows
what else
about.
do you want?
It's
It's crazy
beautiful.
because that's something that like I strive for, and I didn't even know that there were stories out there like that. Because I always think that the relationship between me and Allah is only between me and Allah. I don't need to share my relationship with anyone else. I don't want to share my Lord with anyone else. Like what? He created me, and as far as I know, yeah, he created many other people, but he created me. I'm different from you, and I'm different from you, and I'm different from you. I do different deeds than you. My deeds are accepted different from yours. Like, so why would I want to be sharing my relationship with Allah with other people?
What are you trying to say, bro? You trying to gatekeep?
No, exactly. Like you don't have to gatekeep the khair, but what you do specifically,
Yeah, for sure.
Like what
Exactly.
you
your
do
amal,
specifically.
you should have secrets between Allah.
100%.
One of the salaf, this guy said, he said that any act of worship that people know about, he doesn't consider it like obviously he does it, like salah, you have to do it in front of people. Jum'ah, you have to do it in front of people. But he says, I only count for me, like the a'mal that are going to be counted for me are the ones that no one knows.
Yeah. Actually, look,
Like that.
I adopted like that type of mentality like a couple of years ago. I was like, man, like whatever I do in front of people, I don't even want to try and count that. Like the ones that truly count for me is the ones only me and Allah know about. Because
Exactly.
you know what I'm saying? Like you never, because in that moment, you can't have the wrong intention. There's no way. Because like nobody's watching you. Nobody's
That's the whole
listening
point.
to you. But in
There's
that
no
moment,
benefit.
you know
When it's
you
only you and
only
Allah,
did it for the sake
Then
of
you
Allah.
know it is for the sake of Allah.
Bro,
Exactly.
it reminds me of in Surah Hud, I think it's like in ajri illa ala alladhina fatarani. Like it is my reward only comes from
Yes,
the one who
Surah Hud, yeah.
originated me.
You said Surah Hud?
Yeah,
Exactly,
Surah
yeah. And this is actually the saying of like all the prophets. So the
All
Surah
prophets, yeah.
Hud, it starts with the story of Nuh, and then it
And
goes
then
to the story of
Ibrahim and
Hud, and then then the story of Salih, and then Ibrahim,
Mhm.
and then Shu'aib.
Mhm.
So all of them, when their qawm is saying, "Oh, like let Islam go, we'll give you this," he's like, "No, in ajri illa ala Allah," right? Like that's this famous saying, Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
I want to leave the people with this message, right? This message that radiates with me a lot of the time whenever I think of the life that I live as a Muslim, trying to be strong in my faith, no matter who I'm up against, no matter who's around me. And the saying is from Khalid ibn al-Walid when he was in battle and he was telling the people he was going to go against. He said, "I'm going to bring men who love death more than you love life."
I love that.
And as a Muslim, if you are a true believer, if you're someone who really strives for the cause of Allah, then you have nothing to fear except the fact that you could be taken away from Allah. And what that means is if you're living your life and you fear death, if you ever fear death, then you're not doing enough in your life to bring you closer to Allah. Because Allah tells you that if you strive in His way, if you do whatever you can to get closer to Him, simply doing something like saying Ayat al-Kursi after every fard salah, then death will just be a place of resting time for you. And I always like to live my life thinking that I can rest in my grave because I'm going to be there for a long time. I'm going to be there longer than I've lived my life. So I can rest then. Now I should be looking to do all the good deeds that I can so that on the day of judgment or when I'm in my grave, Allah tells me you did enough.
Mm.
Even though me, myself, I'll still think I didn't do enough until I hear those words, "Udkhul jannati," right? Until you hear those words, enter my paradise. Now you can rest. That's when you should feel like rest. That's when you should feel like, oh, okay, you've done enough. But until then, you're never gonna know.
You got to think about
Yeah.
it. Shaitan, does he rest?
He doesn't.
doesn't.
bro.
So why you resting?
Yeah.
You got to be more persistent than him because Shaitan, he's very persistent.
Yeah.
He's very patient too. You got to beat that in every single way.
He's hard working. You got to hard work. You got to hard working, bro.
You know, that's the like subhanAllah, it's such a hikmah that you just said, like a wisdom, because Shaitan, he is persistent and he is also very patient. He's been around for a very long time.
Mm.
So those are also traits that you have to have as a Muslim. You have to be very persistent in your good deeds. You have to be very patient with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the plan that he has for you, and very trusting in that. Because Shaitan has those same traits, but he's using them for bad. If you use them for good, you're getting rewarded. He's not getting any reward for whatever he's doing, but he has traits that can make a good Muslim, but he's using them for the wrong things.
And that's with everything. So again, going back to what we were saying, you got good and bad trends. You better be on the good side. I remember Sheikh Asim, right? Like he said this thing, like, but it's very true.
Also Hakim.
Yeah, Sheikh Asim Hakim. Allah bless him.
Amen.
But basically, it was talking about, you know, there's some Sahaba and Muslims that like we have no idea about. Like they're gonna be in Jannah. We have no idea about them. We know nothing about their lives. But then, subhanAllah, then you go into the hellfire and you look and you're like, oh, I know this person. I know this person. I know them. I know them. I know that. Like, why are we like this? Why are we gonna know more people of the hellfire than we should know about people of Jannah? Like it's crazy to think about. Like these are the type of people that you're looking up to, the people that you're kissing up to, the people that you research about, that you want to know everything about. But you're not doing the same thing for our Muslims, for our Muslim brothers and sisters who are going to benefit you.
The Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab," right? Or yuhshar al-mar'u ma'a man ahab. That the person he will be reunited means in afterlife with whomever he loved. So you know when the Sahaba heard this, said they got happy because they knew the most person they loved more than themselves, more than their families, was who? Was the Prophet ﷺ. You know, the Prophet ﷺ said, "لن يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه," like from مالي ولدي والناس أجمعين. That none of you will truly believed until I am more beloved to him than his wealth, than his family, than his parents, and his kids, and everything, than his property. So then Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, and then after that, when the Prophet said, and himself. So Umar al-Khattab, you know, he stood up. He said, "O Prophet of Allah, I love you more than, you know, my family and everyone, but I don't love you more than myself." So then the Prophet said, "La ya Umar, no Umar, until you love me more than yourself." Then Umar thought to himself, he goes, "Okay, Prophet of Allah, now I love you more than myself." And then this is when the famous saying that the Prophet said, "Al-an ya Umar, al-an," that now, ya Umar, now you have believed. SubhanAllah, loving the Prophet. So like he's saying that, who do you actually truly love? Do you truly love all these celebrity stuff, or do you love the Sahaba? Do you love the Salihin, even the people now? SubhanAllah.
And what's the perfect example? When we say you love Allah and your messenger, and Allah and his messenger more than anything else, what is a perfect example for that? That means when I'm at work and like it's time for me to go pray, I'm not taking the fact that my boss is going to get mad at me because I have to go pray. No, Allah is telling me I have to pray at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. When my friends are sitting here, you know, they're laughing. They're laughing at me because of my Islam. I'm going to sit here and choose my Islam over them any day. This is the true love right here. When you follow the Prophet ﷺ and when you listen to Allah, this is the true love right here.
And that true love also comes with, you know, something that Allah already instructed you to do. He says, you know, send your salawat upon the Prophet, because to love the Prophet is to love Allah. Saying salawat, you're making dua for the Prophet, correct? But that is also an act of worship, subhanAllah. It's not the dua itself, but also what you're making dua for, what you're saying. That's the act of worship as well. SubhanAllah, like you're getting rewarded like X2, because you make a dua for yourself. Okay, yeah, you know, praying to Allah, but you make dua for the Prophet, you send salawat upon the Prophet, you get the reward of sending salawat, and you get a reward of, you know, praying to Allah.
Imagine that one salawat you sent upon him is the reason why he intercedes for you on the day of judgment. Imagine you just one away every single time. One good deed away from, you know, from being put into the hellfire, being put into Jannah.
You know, this is something like I want to question people. I like to question people on certain things, you know. Some people, you know, there's differences of opinion out there. And I always like to think, okay, who do we follow more? You say, oh, I do it because, well, this guy said it's okay. Or, I watch this influencer. Oh, he makes these types of videos. So I'm going to make these types of videos. Oh, I'm going to like these videos. I'm going to follow from these types of people. But if you really deep it, if you really think about it, okay, if the Prophet were here, if he were to see these are the types of people I hang around, would he hang around me? The Prophet would not hang around people who are people of bid'ah. He wouldn't hang around people who, go against the word of Allah. He would never do that. Because when you hang around those types of people too much, you become them. That's who you are. You're going to be raised with them on the day of judgment. And this is something that I was seeing yesterday. I see all these people, wearing Halloween costumes and stuff like that, whether they're Muslim or not. And it just reminded me of the hadith. Whoever imitates the people is of them. And if you're of them, you're raised with them on the day of judgment. You might think, oh, I lived my whole life as a Muslim. But then you went and celebrated what the kuffar celebrate.
Man, matter of fact, look, I had one of my non-Muslim friends actually yesterday. He called me. He said, "Yo, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm at home." He said, "Look," he said, "You trying to go out like to the beach area? There's this club out there." I'm like, "Bro, I don't go clubbing." And he said, "Yeah, but we don't have to go inside. Just go outside and hang out." I said, "Nah." He said, "Why not, bro?" I said, "I just got a bad feeling, bro." I said, "Like, why would I ever do that?" I said, "Imagine if I die right there. Then what? What's gonna be my explanation?" Imagine I go out there just to hang around. I don't even go inside, but like you got all those people went outside in their costumes and their fitna and this and that, and then I'm raised with these people. Yeah, no, I'd be crazy. I'd be crazy to choose that.
And one of the best deeds you can do is to leave something for the sake of Allah. Because if you and that what you just said, it counts just because you had the opportunity to go there, but you chose not to do it out of fear of Allah.
But you know what's so crazy? Like, wallah, before and after that phone call, I was reflecting on death, and then after that, I was researching about death, and like I was just like, man, like, and then like I get a call in between. I'm just like, wow, like this is crazy. So
We
like,
always talk about what we can do, but we never talk about what you're supposed to not do. Like you said, leaving something for the sake of Allah. It's more important to leave off the sins than do acts of worship.
and like it's a virtue to sit there and reflect upon death, because like this is like your ultimate, like this is something that we're all gonna go through, and this is the only thing that's guaranteed through our life. If you're sitting there constantly reflecting upon death, it's gonna make you less likely to go ahead and do something haram, because you're afraid you're gonna die upon it. And like, subhanAllah, like who knows? Like, if had I not been reflecting on death, like who knows what I would have done? I'm not saying I would have done it, but I'm saying, like, what I'm saying? Like it definitely had a big influence on my decisions.
Those reflections come from love of Allah.
Yeah.
Just thinking like, oh, I wouldn't want to, be caught in this state. I wouldn't want to be caught wearing this thing. I wouldn't want to be caught, posting this video. So then you just don't do it. And you're rewarded for it. Like, people don't understand the idea of a reward. People think that you have to see good to achieve good, but really you don't. It's the things that you don't see, because Allah swears by so many things that you don't even see in the Quran. Why would he do that? Why would he say he's the Lord of the unseen? Because there's a lot of good in the unseen as well. Your good deeds, you can't physically see the good deed. You know that it's been done, but how much reward you just got for that, you don't know. Only Allah knows. Because you can't just go out and say, oh, I just donated $100 to charity today. That's probably like 10 good deeds right there. You can't do that. You can't. Because then that might omit the entire good deed that you just did, because maybe now, at the time your intention was good, but now your intention just drifted away because Allah knew all along what you were trying to do.
Yeah, look, I don't know if one of you guys can answer this question for me, but maybe this is something that you guys might have thought about. So how when we do a sin, right? It's counted as one sin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like when someone is sitting there listening to music, do they get like a sin for every single word that they listen to, or is it just like the song itself? Because like what are we basing this off of? If you understand what I'm saying here.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, because look, when we look at the Quran, you're rewarded for every single letter that you recite. So are you punished for every single like word of filth and every single second that that you're sitting there listening to that as well? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just a thought that crosses my mind too, because it's just like it's another reason why you shouldn't. Because imagine you're sitting 3 minutes, another 3 minutes, 2 minutes, a minute 50, whatever it is, and it just adds up, and then you're sitting there at the end with like 3,000 bad deeds, and you're just like, bro, like what the heck? Like, it's crazy. Think about.
Regardless of if it's yes or no, if you think of it like that, it would take you further away from doing that deed.
Yeah,
because
that's what I was gonna say. I don't have an answer to it, but I think the best thing is just stay away from it.
For sure, we should
Just
always
don't sin.
because it's not about if it's a major or minor sin. It's about how far it's going to take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you're sitting there doing these types of things, you're not thinking about Allah in that moment. You're wasting time that you're on borrowed time right now.
And like we said the last podcast, imagine you're given time, you're given these blessings, you're given things that other people don't have, and you don't take advantage of it. You don't use it for good. You don't use it to spread good out into the world. And then you get asked by Allah, I gave you all these blessings. I gave you these gifts. What did you do with them? use them for bad. You used your platform to turn people away from Islam, to say, oh, I don't want to make Islamic content. I don't want people to know this. I made this type of content. I encourage these people to do this.
And on top of that, guess what? You were still ungrateful. You were still complaining about your situation. But yet, you know, had you sat there and been grateful for the things that you were given, you would have probably done good with them. But no, you sat there and you complained, and that led you down a rabbit hole of bad.
You know, before we wrap it up, I just wanted to mention 3 points, very key points that anyone, you know, listening can take from this podcast. And the first one is a saying that I think summarizes and gives a very good explanation for our topic today of keeping Muslim identity and not being afraid of who you are. Is, you know, Umar al-Khattab, and you guys obviously know the story, when he traveled to Jerusalem to when he traveled to Jerusalem to receive the keys, because they conquered Jerusalem, and he's receiving the keys of Jerusalem. And Umar al-Khattab, he was taking turns of riding the camel or whatever mule he was using with his slave. So he was like, okay, at one point I'm gonna ride, and at one point you're gonna ride. At one point I'm gonna ride, at one point you're gonna ride. So when they're entering Jerusalem, it was a time of the slave to get on top of the camel. So the slave told Umar, they can't see you on, like, and you know, it's wrong for them to see you and you're dragging the camel and I'm the one on top. He said, I don't care. So he dropped, he would imagine the king of Jerusalem's like, who is this great person who all the Muslimin are talking about, Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he conquered Jerusalem. Like, no one has done that. I need to meet this person. And when Umar Khattab came, his clothes were patched. You know, back in the day when they used to sew clothes, it was patched. And then they came to him before he entered Jerusalem, like when he was like a mile out. They're like, let us get you new clothing. He was like, no, I'm going to enter like this. He said, the only thing I need is my Islam and my Iman. And then this one, he said his famous statement, نَحْنُ قَوْمٌ أَعَزَّنَا اللَّهُ بِالْإِسْلَامِ. We are a people whom Allah lifted. Allah honored us with Islam. And if we choose honor with anything other than Islam, Allah will humiliate us. So I just want people to think about that if you choose Islam, Allah will honor you. But if you choose to use these trends and follow Hollywood and all these other people, Allah will humiliate us.
100%.
SubhanAllah. And this is also a sign for our brothers and sisters who are suffering around the world in Sudan and Sudan, Lebanon, and Gaza. Ask Allah, to Allah to help them. And the second point is that don't be afraid to share that social media. I had a brother that came to me, subhanAllah, and he said that, he was complaining that, or he wasn't complaining to me, but he started sharing like Islamic reminders on his stories. And people would tell him like, why don't act like you're a good person. Like, don't you remember what you used to do? It's like, that hurts. That's putting alcohol on the cut. A brother is trying to change, and then you're telling him like, that's the worst thing you can do. So for my Muslim fellow brothers and sisters, young and old, don't remind someone of his past, because maybe he changed, maybe he is higher in the ranks of Allah than you. So don't be afraid to share that reminder, even if you do wrong. If the criteria to share something halal, if the criteria to share something, a reminder, was to be perfect, then only the Prophet would be the one that could share something.
Yeah.
And my third point, subhanAllah, is that what Hussein touched on this, and Uthman, just know that the end goal is to enter Jannah. Like, I was talking to my friend like a couple days ago. How often do we think of Jannah? Like, you just live life. Like, I have to pray, I have to read the Quran, I have to make dhikr, I have to stay away from sins. But do you act like we never think of Jannah? Like, just think of Jannah. Go listen to a video about Jannah. Go read the description of Jannah. Then you'll be like, okay, everything I'm doing, I should be doing more. I should be doing more for Jannah. I believe it was the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Someone asked him, oh, Imam Ahmad, when you enter Jannah, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to enter your palace? Are you going to drink from the milk and the wine and the honey? What are you going to do? He said, all I really want to do is I just want to lay down in the grass in Jannah, just look, and I never have to worry about anything again. I never have to worry about sinning. I never have to worry about doing another good deed. I'm done. That's where the ultimate relaxation is, when you enter Jannah. So ask Allah to allow us to enter Jannah, to feel that relaxation. As Hussein said, that's really the only time you can rest is in Jannah. So I ask Allah to allow us to rest in Jannah.
Ameen. That's the perfect way to end it, subhanAllah. Talk about where the ultimate goal lies, and going into this topic of having a strong Muslim identity. Your identity will lead you to where your abode is on the Day of Judgment. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, inshallah. Let us know if you guys want Yusuf to come back on, bro. He's basically like a regular now. So With
Yeah,
that being
he
said,
ain't no guest no more.
with that being said, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. Make sure to share this with your friends and family. You never know his life you can change by sharing this podcast episode. We're still students of knowledge, we're not scholars. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I just want to jazakumullah khair for having me on the podcast today. It's always good to be with these brothers. Ask Allah to accept what they're doing, keep our intentions pure. And everyone listening,
Wa
jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.